There are moments when a man feels that, no matter how hard he tries to do everything right, his connection with a woman slips away like water through his fingers. That quiet frustration, that sense of not knowing what else to do, turns into a weight that hurts more than he admits. Yet what almost nobody says is that much of attraction and desire is born in places invisible to most, not in grand gestures or rehearsed words, but in the way you touch, in the way you caress. Imagine a secret map where every touch opens a different door in a woman's mind and body. It's not about force nor persistence, but about precision and intention, where a subtle brush becomes a powerful message, where an innocent caress awakens memories, emotions, and feelings she didn't expect. The female mind responds to far more complex stimuli than we usually think, and every part of the body holds a different code that, if understood, creates a bond she'll never forget. The most common mistake is believing that sweet words or material gestures are enough. The truth is, real attraction comes alive when physical contact communicates something greater: safety, mystery, tenderness, and at the same time, a wild spark that breaks the routine. That's where the feelings she can't control are born, the ones that make her think of you without wanting to, and miss you without even knowing why. What's fascinating is that these caresses don't just speak to the body, they reach into the deepest corners of the mind. Each touch has the power to reprogram emotions, to plant memories that play again and again in her imagination, until she can no longer separate the sensation from your presence. And when that happens, it doesn't matter how many excuses she comes up with. Attraction is already inside her. I'm Celia, and today we're going to explore 11 key places, 11 hidden triggers that act as master keys to her body and mind. By understanding them, you won't just gain more control over how she reacts to you, you'll begin to master a silent language that very few men know. Because true seduction isn't shouted or displayed, it's whispered against the skin. Get ready, because what you're about to discover aren't simple tricks, but psychological and physical tools that, when used well, awaken something far stronger than fleeting desire. They create an emotional addiction to you. And once a woman feels that addiction, everything else follows naturally. The first stop on this journey takes us to the neck, one of the most sensitive and symbolic areas for a woman. The neck isn't just delicate skin, it's a place of vulnerability where trust and desire intertwine in silence. Gently caressing it without force is like sending a direct message to her subconscious. Here you're safe, here you can let go. At the same time, it awakens a current of sensations that ripple through her body, making her shiver with just a touch. Think about the difference between touching any random object and resting your hand on a place she doesn't offer to just anyone. The neck is rich with nerves and becomes a powerful trigger when stroked calmly, with a mix of tenderness and firmness. That contrast carries her into a space where reason switches off and instinct takes over. Each touch becomes a silent invitation to surrender, a reminder that she's with a man who knows how to make her feel alive at the core of her being. What's fascinating about the neck is that it speaks as much as a passionate kiss, but without words or exaggerated gestures. It's enough to let your fingers glide slowly across her skin, pause at the base of her nape, or bring your face close enough for the warmth of your breath to send shivers down her spine. That seemingly simple gesture awakens primal memories of protection, while also igniting the instinct of attraction. It's as if her skin spoke a secret language she understands without thinking. When you explore that area with delicacy, you don't just spark physical sensations, you trigger mental images that are hard to ignore. She will link your presence with that unique electricity she felt, and even if she tries to rationalize it, the memory of that caress will return to her mind again and again. What seemed like a simple touch turns into an invisible mark, an emotional imprint that makes her crave that contact with you once more. This is where the real game of seduction begins, not by forcing yourself on her, but by touching where others don't dare or don't know how. Because the neck, more than just a physical spot, is a direct bridge into her inner world, and mastering it is the first step to becoming someone she can never forget. The second point fascinates me because it's so relaxing it makes me go still and calm. This places the hair, a territory often underestimated but deeply charged with emotions and meaning. Hair isn't just a physical adornment, it's an extension of femininity, identity, and even a woman's personal pride. When a man dares to caress it gently, what he's conveying isn't only tenderness, but a feeling of intimacy and complicity that very few can create. It's as if, by sliding your fingers through her strands, you were stepping into a private space, a corner where trust quietly transforms into attraction. Hair has the power to awaken hidden emotions. A soft stroke from the roots to the tips sends a message of care, attention, and presence. A rushed, careless gesture is nothing like a slow, deliberate, almost hypnotic movement. She perceives it as protective, as a wordless way of telling her your energy is right there, steady and controlled, without any need for excess. That balance between restrained strength and softness becomes addictive in her mind. There's a fascinating psychological side to this. Hair connects to childhood memories, to the comfort of someone soothing her by gently stroking her head. Repeating that gesture in adulthood doesn't just spark desire, it reactivates that emotional memory of safety. It places her in a state of openness where her guard lowers and her attraction to you multiplies without her realizing it. The power of this touch lies in its versatility. It can happen in an intimate moment, when saying goodbye after a date, or even in the middle of a casual conversation. In every setting, the impact is the same, a spark of connection that lingers. She feels it's not just any gesture, but a touch full of intention, a way of reminding her you're there, present, and different from the rest. Caressing her hair is much more than a romantic detail. It's an act that goes straight into her emotional memory and makes her feel special. And when a woman senses that someone is touching her essence with both respect and desire, the inevitable happens. She starts thinking about you more than she'd like to admit. The third point focuses on the lower back, an area that, although rarely spoken about openly, has a direct impact on a woman's desire and emotional connection. The lower back carries a powerful symbolism. It supports the body, provides balance, and at the same time, it's one of the most sensitive spots to a man's touch. Caressing it with intention communicates strength and dominance, but also care and tenderness, and that combination awakens in her a magnetism that's hard to ignore. Picture the scene. Your hand rests gently right where her spine ends, and the curve of her hips begins. It's not invasive, it's not forceful, it's a touch that conveys presence and security. That simple contact triggers an instinctive reaction because on a subconscious level, she interprets it as protection and as a sign of deep interest. It's a place that invites closeness, making her feel guided and, at the same time, desired. What's fascinating is how this spot blends the physical with the psychological. The lower back is filled with nerve endings that respond intensely to touch, but beyond the body, there's an unspoken message. When you touch her there, you make her feel you're in control, that you can lead without words. That sense of calm authority, when expressed with elegance, sparks in her an attraction that's almost impossible to resist. This gesture becomes even more powerful in everyday situations. Placing your hand lightly on her lower back as you walk into a place together, while guiding her along, or when seeing her to the door. In each of those moments, without even trying, the touch turns into an emotional anchor. She'll remember it as a sign of security and mystery, two elements that, combined, elevate desire far more than she expects. And here's where I want to pause to invite you to something. If you're realizing the power of these silent gestures and how they transform a woman's perception, make sure to keep learning with us. Subscribe, leave a like, and drop your country in the comments. It's our way of recognizing each other as part of the same community. Because mastering these 11 caresses isn't a passing trick. It's the beginning of a new language of attraction that, when used well, changes the game entirely. The fourth point takes us to the hands and fingers, an intimate territory that many overlook, yet it holds immense emotional and sensory power. Hands are the most direct bridge between the everyday and the profound, between what's visible and what's silently felt. Caressing her hands isn't an innocent gesture. It's a quiet declaration that conveys attention, interest, and a closeness that imprints itself on her memory right away. When you trace her fingers softly, every touch activates countless nerve endings that travel straight to her mind. It's no coincidence that a simple contact in this area can quicken her pulse. The brain links hand caresses with trust, openness, and a sense of complicity. In that moment, it's as if you're telling her, "Here there are no masks. Here I am with you, fully present and real." Beyond physical touch, hands reveal much more: care, expression, even vulnerability. She'll notice your composure in how you hold her hand, in how you stroke it unhurriedly, in the steadiness of your touch. A man who knows how to manage the rhythm of such a small gesture projects the kind of calm control that's irresistible. That serenity, far from going unnoticed, awakens in her the sense that she's with someone different, someone who doesn't try to impress, but to connect. What's intriguing is how hands can set the stage for both subtlety and intensity. A light brush during conversation can make her think of you more than she expected, and a prolonged touch, with your fingers interlaced and moving slowly against hers, can awaken a flood of emotions that go far beyond the physical. That blend of tenderness and mystery is what makes this caress linger in her mind long after the moment has passed. Remember, in a woman's psychology, the smallest details make the biggest difference. A caress on her hands and fingers can be more powerful than any grand gesture because it belongs to the realm of the unexpected and the intimate. And when you manage to make her associate your presence with those kinds of sensations, you stop being just anyone and become someone she can't get out of her head. The fifth point takes us to the cheeks, an area that combines tenderness, emotion, and vulnerability in a single caress. Cheeks are a territory rich with symbolism. They reflect laughter, shyness, surprise, and even desire. When a man dares to gently trace that part of her face, he's not just touching skin, he's also touching the immediate emotion she's experiencing. And it's in that blend of physical gesture and emotional meaning where true connection is born. A caress on the cheek is more than contact. It's a mirror where she feels seen, valued, and acknowledged. When you do it calmly, with the tips of your fingers or the back of your hand, you're saying far more than words ever could. You're telling her that you're present, that your attention is fixed solely on her. That feeling of exclusivity sparks an instant bond, because few women forget the intensity of being the absolute center of attention in such an intimate moment. What's fascinating is how this gesture awakens deep memories. It can bring back the sweetness of being cared for in childhood, but reinterpreted through the lens of adult attraction. That mix of tenderness and desire breaks down her emotional defenses, creating a delicious confusion between feeling protected and at the same time deeply desired. And it's that duality that creates a quiet addiction to the man who knows how to caress her cheeks with intention. This type of caress works in many contexts, during conversation, as a sudden gesture that disrupts routine, or right before a kiss, when cheek-to-cheek contact prepares her mind and body for what's about to happen. Her skin reacts, her breathing quickens, and without a single word, a field of attraction has already been created, one she can't ignore. The power of this point is that it becomes an emotional seal. Every time she remembers that caress, she will associate your image with a mix of tenderness and passion, and even if she tries to explain it away, she won't be able to stop that memory from coming back again and again. Because when you touch her cheeks with calm confidence, you're not just caressing her skin, you're caressing the very center of her emotional world. The sixth point takes us to the abdomen, an area rarely caressed with conscious intention, but one that carries a deep psychological and physical effect. The abdomen isn't just sensitive because of its nerve endings, it's also the symbolic center of vulnerability. It's where breath gathers, where vital energy flows, and where the most primal instinct of protection resides. That's why, when a man gently caresses this area, he sends a powerful message of trust and intimacy, one she cannot ignore. Picture a slow stroke across her stomach, with an open palm and calm movements. It's not about pressure or urgency, but about transmitting peace and security. That touch connects her to a sense of surrender, because unconsciously, she understands she's opening a space she usually protects. In that gesture, care and desire blend together, creating an irresistible mix that stimulates both body and mind. What's fascinating about the abdomen is that it also carries an emotional weight. Many women feel critical of this part of their body, seeing it with insecurity or hesitation. When a man touches her stomach with acceptance and ease, he's not just expressing attraction, he's giving validation. Without words, he's saying, "I like you as you are, I'm fully drawn to you." That silent validation becomes an emotional trigger that makes her feel seen and desired in a way that's completely different. This caress also has its own rhythm. It can happen while she's relaxed, during a hug from behind, or in a quiet, intimate moment of rest. No dramatics are needed. The steady contact alone is enough for her mind to register the connection. That slow, consistent stroke becomes linked to a sense of belonging, to the idea that she's with someone who isn't just after the physical, but knows how to reach beneath the surface. Ultimately, the abdomen is a key point because it awakens more than immediate desire. It builds trust and opens the door to deeper emotional surrender. And when you make her associate you with that feeling of calm and validation, you're not just caressing her skin, you're caressing her mind. The seventh point takes us to the thighs, one of the areas most charged with symbolism and desire. Thighs are a territory that balances strength and sensitivity, a place where the tension between what's forbidden and what's allowed generates a unique electricity. When a man caresses a woman's thighs, he's not just touching skin, he's activating an instinctive message of attraction, power, and intimate connection that she feels instantly, even if she tries to hide it. Touching the thighs should never be rough or invasive. What makes it irresistible is subtlety, a slow stroke from the outside toward the inside, a gentle pressure that needs no words to convey intention. This caress awakens highly sensitive nerve endings, but more importantly, it communicates calm dominance. She perceives that you're not acting out of anxiety, but that you know how to control the pace, and in her mind, that translates into trust and magnetism. What's interesting is that thighs carry a very strong psychological component. For many women, this area represents both desire and vulnerability. When a man manages to caress them with elegance, he shows her he can hold the tension without losing control. That contrast between restrained desire and respect stirs in her a far more powerful attraction than mere physical arousal. It's a gesture that hooks her emotionally because it makes her feel desired and cared for at the same time. This kind of caress can appear in many different moments, while sitting together in conversation, during a walk where your hand rests naturally, or in an intimate pause where silence says more than words. What matters isn't the context, but the way you transmit calm and presence in every movement. That naturalness is what etches the gesture into her memory and turns it into a recollection that resurfaces again and again. Thighs are, ultimately, one of the master keys of attraction. If you know how to touch them with rhythm and elegance, she won't just remember the physical effect, but the psychological sensation of feeling unique in your hands. And when a man achieves that combination of desire and care, what begins as a caress becomes an emotional anchor she can never erase. The eighth point takes us to the lower back, that space between the spine and the hips that often goes unnoticed, yet carries immense power when touched with intention. The lower back is one of those places where a woman feels the most support and, at the same time, the most vulnerability. When your hand moves across that part of her body, you're sending a silent message. Here you have support. Here is a man who knows how to hold you and guide you without needing words. A touch on the lower back provokes an instinctive reaction because it activates both the physical and the psychological. Physically, it's full of nerves that respond intensely to a gentle caress. But the deeper effect is emotional. She feels she's giving access to an intimate space, one not everyone gets to touch, and in that gesture, she perceives trust, mystery, and a magnetism that pulls her closer. Picture walking beside her and resting your hand slowly on the small of her back. That subtle contact transforms an ordinary act into an experience charged with attraction. She interprets it as guidance, as protection, and at the same time as a sign of calm dominance. That balance between care and leadership is what makes her start linking your presence with both safety and desire. This gesture also works as a psychological anchor. Every time she recalls your hand on her lower back, the memory of that sensation will resurface with the same intensity, even when you're not around. It becomes a silent reminder of your composure and energy, a small detail that awakens a deep and lasting attraction. The lower back is more than just a part of the body. It's a symbol of connection between the physical and the emotional. Stroking it with calm and confidence is a way of telling her that with you, she can relax without fear, that you're willing to hold not only her body, but her emotions too. And when a man manages to communicate that, he stops being just anyone and becomes someone she can't get out of her mind. The 9th point takes us to the lips, perhaps the most obvious area, yet one of the most misunderstood by many men. Lips are not just a place to kiss, they're a point of contact that, when caressed with subtlety, awakens an emotional and psychological intensity far greater than it seems. By tracing the outline of her mouth with your fingers, you're not simply touching skin, you're playing at the boundary between tenderness and desire, between what's allowed and what she secretly longs for. Something as simple as slowly sliding your fingertip across her lips carries an intensity that words could never reach. It's a message of mystery, anticipation, and calm control. She feels it as a silent signal of what could happen, and that very tension is what ignites her imagination. The female mind responds powerfully to what's left unresolved, to what isn't given completely, and that caress is exactly that, an unrevealed promise. What's fascinating about this point is that the lips hold one of the highest concentrations of nerve endings in the human body. Every stroke is amplified. Every touch becomes a spark that runs through her entire nervous system. But beyond the physical effect, what captivates her is the sensation of vulnerability. Allowing a man to caress her mouth means accepting a level of intimacy that goes beyond the surface. And it's that silent surrender that creates emotional addiction. This type of caress is even more powerful in moments of pause, in the middle of a close conversation, just before a kiss, or even when she least expects it. In those moments, a touch on her lips turns into an emotional anchor. Her mind won't just register the gesture, but also the mix of expectation and desire you created in that instant. When a man masters this point, there's no need to rush or push forward, because a touch on the lips doesn't aim to close the scene. It opens the space for her to be the one who wants more. And once a woman starts desiring more than she's receiving, you've already planted in her mind the memory that makes her think of you inevitably. The 10th point takes us to the inner arm, a place as unexpected as it is powerful. At first glance, it seems ordinary, without much significance, but in reality, it's one of the most sensitive spots to touch, and above all, one of the most surprising when caressed with intention. The skin there is thinner, more delicate, carrying a level of sensitivity rarely explored. That's precisely why a touch on this point breaks down defenses. She doesn't expect it, and she feels it with an intensity that takes her by surprise. A caress on the inner arm has an almost immediate effect. It doesn't need to be long or obvious. Just a slow stroke with your fingertips is enough to send a shiver through her body. That physical reaction comes with a psychological message. You make her feel that you know where to touch without relying on the obvious, that you have the ability to discover places others overlook. That skill creates mystery, and mystery is one of the strongest triggers of desire. This area is also tied to trust. Very few people touch the inner arm of a woman. When you do it naturally, you're communicating closeness, intimacy, and a level of complicity reserved for someone special. She senses that you're stepping into deeper territory, one that connects not just with the body, but with the mind. And it's in that mix of the unexpected and the intimate where emotional addiction toward you begins. The beauty of this gesture is that it can appear in any context, even in moments that seem innocent. Maybe while you're talking, a subtle touch on her arm is enough to spark that flame. Or perhaps in a more intimate moment, when your hand moves slowly from her shoulder down to the inner crease, the effect will be so strong she won't be able to forget the sensation. Every time she thinks of you, that memory will resurface with force. The inner arm is, in essence, an open secret, a sensitive spot that, when used wisely, becomes your silent advantage. Stroking it calmly isn't just a physical gesture, it's a demonstration of composure and awareness. And when she realizes a man knows how to awaken her skin in unexpected places, there's no doubt she'll start thinking of him more than she wants to admit. The 11th point takes us to the nape of the neck, perhaps one of the most enigmatic and powerful spots on the female body. The nape is a place of extreme vulnerability, where sensitivity meets a symbolic weight of surrender. Touching it isn't just a physical gesture, it's a profound message that speaks of dominance, mystery, and an intimacy that goes far beyond the obvious. When your hand moves calmly along her nape, she feels a sensation that blends security with a delicious shiver. The contrast between the softness of your touch and the firmness of your presence sparks an instinctive reaction. She trembles, closes her eyes, and feels like she's losing control of her thoughts and her body. That loss of control is what makes her addicted to your touch, because she doesn't rationalize it, she simply experiences it. The nape also carries a strong psychological component. In ancient cultures, it was seen as a symbol of trust, since exposing it meant revealing one of the body's most fragile parts. Today, in the psychology of attraction, touching the nape still conveys the same message. She knows that she only allows that contact with someone who awakens something truly deep inside her. That feeling of exclusivity amplifies the emotional impact of the caress. Just a gentle stroke with your fingers or light pressure with your palm is enough to trigger a powerful reaction. It could be during a hug from behind, as you lean close to whisper in her ear, or in a moment of pause where silence is filled with your presence. In any of those settings, the nape becomes the key that opens the door to more intense desire, because there, attraction blends with absolute trust. That's why the last point could be no other. The nape sums up everything a well-given caress means: mystery, power, tenderness, and desire all in one gesture. And when a man masters this point, he stops being remembered just for what he said or did. He becomes an experience she can't forget, because the nape isn't just touched, it's etched into her memory like a seal that makes her come back to you again and again. We've walked together through 11 key points that go far beyond the physical. What you discovered today isn't just about simple caresses. They're psychological keys that awaken deep emotions, drawing her into a connection she can't control. Each touch, from the neck to the nape, doesn't just send shivers through her body. It also leaves an invisible mark on her mind, a memory that sets you apart from every other man. The important thing here isn't the technique itself, but the intention and the energy you project. A gesture made with composure, calm, and confidence is worth more than 1,000 sweet words. Because in the end, what truly makes a woman addicted to you isn't the mechanical act. It's the feeling of being with someone who knows how to touch both her skin and her inner world with the same precision. The man who masters this silent language stops chasing and starts attracting. It's no longer about begging or insisting, but about creating experiences she naturally wants to relive. That's the real power, when she, without fully understanding why, craves your presence because your touch has been etched deep inside her. If you've made it this far, you're part of a community of men who have chosen to reclaim their presence and their worth. You're not invisible, you're not weak. You now hold tools that, when used wisely, restore the control and respect you deserve. Each point in this journey doesn't just transform your relationship with women, it transforms your relationship with yourself. So now the choice is yours. Remain the same, or dare to apply what you've learned and begin writing a different story. We'll still be here, building this path together, because this isn't just another video, it's a process of transformation. I speak with wisdom, and if you do too, you'll know this is only the beginning of something much greater.